If you feel the need to group an entire massive group together because of their skin color or their blood type, then you are just lazy. To be racist means that you are giving up on individuality. It means that you are giving up on accessing each person and analyzing each person for their actions. It means that you have chosen to be comfortable putting people into boxes because that is your way to navigate through life. And there's a reason why I feel like a lot of racist people, they don't go very far. It's because their brain has a limitation. Their brain truly thinks in the box. And if you don't fit in the box, they're going to try to force you to fit into that box. And that's how you see this destructive cycle happening. It's a fact, there's obviously other factors in it, such as the Industrial Revolution. But when slavery was abolished, our economy it started thriving. Why? Because, obviously, again, the Industrial Revolution, but I also would like to believe that the mindset of people taking these shackles of racism off allowed them to be more creative. It allowed them to start to learn again. It allowed them to start to think, didn't view it this way, didn't view the Black experience this way, didn't view the experience of my own field this way. When people started not having to depend on the crutch of racism and the crutch of slavery, it made them start thinking out of the box, and people started getting to work when it came to innovation. So today, when you look at that from a modern context, I really do feel like you're just making yourself mentally handicapped by being a racist. It is a disease. Now, with this ongoing problem that we have of the condemnation going too far, I want to, again, talk about something that I've mentioned multiple times throughout this show, just the conversation of DEI being overexposed. I'm as anti-DEI as it gets. I think DEI is one of the things that's destroying our country. It's truly something that's corny. It's truly something that's outdated. It's something that is making the bar lower for everyone and everything. But if you are at the point where anytime you see a successful Black person, you think this must be DEI, then you might just be racist. And I understand when you see the narratives online, you see the conversations happening online, you see all of this, it's very easy to put people into the box and to follow this pattern on autopilot and try to say that all these different people are DEI hires. Speaking of autopilot, if you are one of those people that gets nervous when you see a Black pilot flying your plane, baby, that's racism. Okay? Of all the planes crashing in recent history here in America, how many of those pilots were Black? None. So the narrative of saying, oh, this pilot doesn't have the credentials, you are out of your mind. Black pilots are not the ones crashing these planes. Okay? And if you talk about getting a Black lawyer, you cannot be a DEI lawyer. You cannot be a DEI doctor. You have the credentials to be there at that point. DEI does not pass the bar. While getting into college might be easier for people of color, because we've talked about that, objectively, factually speaking, but passing the bar has nothing to do with your race. Okay, when you're going through your medical clinicals, that has nothing to do with your race. They're not going to make it easier for you to become a doctor because you're Black. You might get into the program easier. There's an argument to be made there. But when it comes to actually getting the credentials, to getting that certificate to allow you to practice your practice, you are not going to have a career with any longevity. I'll put it that way. If you got there slightly easier because of your race. But once you get those certain credentials, calling someone a DEI hire is just disrespectful and racist. It's one of those concepts that has gotten overexposed. So this rhetoric, part of why this rhetoric is dangerous too, is because this racist rhetoric is being used constantly, and it is simply pushing Black people away from the right. And while some of you might not care about that, need I remind you that one of the biggest conversations that happened in the 2024 election cycle was how many Black men were coming over to President Trump. Okay. You look at a booming organization like Blexit or the Black Conservative Federation or all these different groups that have to do with conservative Black people escaping and fleeing the left and, supporting supporting conservative values and being a part of this huge conservative movement. That's amazing. The more the merrier there. Okay. And what you have to realize too is how consequential it is to push Black people over to the right. Because if more Black people, pushing Black people over to the left, because if more Black people come over to the right, you realize just a 10% drop in Black support, and the left can never win a major election again for the most part. The Black vote is very consequential. And Black influence is very, very deep and impactful when it comes to every element of our culture, objectively. But now we have all these Black people coming over to the right, and what they're seeing is so much of the racism that we spent years swearing was not over here. That is humiliating as a Black conservative. That should be humiliating as a conservative, period. And again, I want to emphasize, because I know how some people are going to take what I'm saying and take it to the extreme, but I know that this is the fringe right that I'm talking about. I know that this is not majority of the people on the right. Otherwise, maybe I want to be here. Okay? Majority of the people that you talk about who are conservatives are on the right. They know good and well that this racist stuff that's happening is out of control and would never stand by it. But I need more people to stand up and say something that are influential in the right-wing space. Because it is getting out of control how much hate there is to Black people at large coming out of the woodworks on X. And a lot of them are bots. A lot of them are fringe. But there's still so many of them that it's drowning out the voices of those that are sane. And there's a lot of Black conservatives that are talking about this. Pretty much every that's a reach. A lot of Black conservatives, I'll just put it that way. Like more than 10 of prominent Black conservative influencers and people in the political space have reached out to me in the last week being like, is anybody going to say anything about this? And unfortunately, there's a lot of Black conservatives who are either entertaining it or pushing it along or just jumping as a part of the camaraderie because we love being a part of the conservative movement. The conservative movement is fun. Everybody's talking about how hot MAGA culture is now, how hot it is to be conservative, how cool it is to be on the right. We love it here. Overall, this is a great experience. It's a lot of fun to be Black and conservative these days. So that being said, a lot of people don't want to be kicked out of the clique. And a lot of people are afraid that they're going to sound woke for having a conversation like this. I can already guarantee the comments are going to be filled with people trying to say that I sound woke. I'm not being woke. I'm being objective. And I'm hoping, and I beseech you to try to view this conversation from a different perspective if you don't understand what I'm saying. And I want you to join the conversation. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'm just letting you know how so many Black conservative and prominent Black conservatives feel about the conversations that are happening right now. And I do not want to see this split where all the Black conservatives are no longer going to be a part of the movement because we feel like we're being pushed out.